Alright guys, I've been asked a ton, so we're gonna cover it. What are the things you should be using your soul essences on in solo leveling Arise? The game's not out worldwide, but if you want to know how to get it now and get playing it, all that stuff, you can check out the video down below in the description. Also, if you didn't see my video from about a week ago, I covered this topic, well, a similar topic, and that one was basically how to get soul essences or the gacha tickets. So you should check that one out as well, because I do reference some of the stuff mentioned in that video in today's video. So the first thing I want to mention is, because it's super obvious, you should be using your soul essences, which is again this game's version of gems, on gacha pulls. This is the most obvious use for them. This is going to be the most consistent use for them, etc. However, with a catch, I do not recommend using them here, and I'll tell you why. But before I do, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. About 80% of viewers are not subscribed, so make sure you're joining that 20%. I'd greatly appreciate it. The like goal is 400 likes if you find the video helpful. Okay, now DFree, why shouldn't I do these? Well, my good friend, let me tell you this. In that other video I referenced where I talked about where to get all these tickets and stuff, one of the things I talk about is how dirt cheap, easy, freaking spoon-fed those black tickets are. I'm just gonna run down a few spots. They're here in story. Every single chapter offers 4 of them. By the way, a lot of soul essences is obviously in every single chapter. So yeah, anyway. And also, there's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of them. We mentioned this, but we also can shoot over to hard mode. Exact same thing. Soul essences included, same deal. So anyway, they're super easy to get. But obviously, this is not a consistent thing. This story is not gonna, unless they reset the story, which games typically don't do. Some do it, some don't. Other than that, another consistent place to get them that is, you know, it's not going to be something you can rely on, because there's only 12 chapters here. Maybe in the future they'll add another chapter, but that would only be a maximum of another 10 tickets, right? But anyway, from the jump, you've got all these chapters where they're going to offer 10, 10, 10, 10, and they're going to offer you rewards along the way. As you're playing the game, you should absolutely be playing the game with these objectives in mind, because they're not retroactive. Like, I've done some of the other things in here. It's going to say, like, encore missions or blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I've played 10 of these already. Anyway, so each one's going to offer me 10. The point is that these are so easy to get. That's just a couple locations. They're all over the place. You can exchange for them. You can play other content. They're all over the place. So with that being the case, particularly in the beginning when you're first starting playing the game, I absolutely positively do not recommend using them to exchange here. Maybe if they were cheaper, but they cost $250 per ticket basically. So obviously if you're going to do a multi, that's $2,500, things like that. That's the exact same ratio as our typical rate up gacha. These also are $250 per one, which is fine. However, the white tickets or silver tickets, whatever, these ones for the rate up banner, are not anywhere near as easy to get. You'll mainly be getting these from exchanges, sometimes from mission completions, but they're not something I can tell you to pinpoint, hey, go do this to go get a couple multis easily. Like, you can't really do that in anywhere near as effective a manner on this banner. Now, this is important because when they release Chahain, when they release, when they release Alicia, she is going to be here too. So, like, these characters are going to be on the side banners with the white, silver ticket things. So that's what you would use these on. That is the most, again, consistent method or location for you to use your soul essence on, in my opinion, right here. Next up, let's talk about some other candidates, if you will. The game doesn't actually really ask you to use soul essence too much. The only locations it'll ask you to use soul essence is to replenish one of these resources, whether it's dungeon keys or something like that. These are the only other locations really that it's going to ask you to use soul essence. So let's say you were taking on a piece of content and you enjoying it, maybe you're farming something specifically, or more pressingly, more importantly, there is an event ongoing in the events tab, which is going to be here, and this little red circle star thing, which, by the way, I don't think you unlock until you hit level 30, by the way, the events. But anyway, say there's an event that says clear dungeons, right? This is all of a sudden an okay, not great, okay location to waste 150 of these. Now, is this the same value as a gacha ticket? I guess it depends who you ask. Actually, because you might get some good drops. Anyway, depends who you ask. I'd probably say no. However, you would have to then at that point weigh the reward to risk ratio. What do I mean by that? Well, obviously, if there's an event ongoing, what that means is that you stand to get more rewards by clearing more dungeons in that said event, right? So with that being the case, is it going to help propel you to the next milestone to get the next set of rewards? If that answer is yes, then absolutely, in my opinion, I think it's worth it. But again, you still have to always circle back to, in terms of each player, whether or not it's worth it in the context of, hey, that could have been a single. That could have been a multi. If I put a crap ton, I wouldn't really put a crap ton in personally, but like maybe a few singles worth is probably about my limit if I were to do something like that. Same deal for gates. I think gates though, so like the dungeon, instant dungeon, stuff like that, that's obviously tied to artifacts. I think gates may be a little bit more interesting as a location. I would actually rank this a little bit higher. Why? I wouldn't do this. You can come here and complete these faster. This number will go down as you get closer to completion. But at that point, why? You know, you might as well just wait. But nonetheless, what I can say is gates are interesting because they run those sim events for gates where it's, okay, clear as many gates as you can. But gate keys are valuable because they're going to offer you experience and all these other things that you are just not going to get from other locations. So I would actually say that this isn't a bad spot either. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it's not a bad spot, not the worst spot either. Again, with the context being that the super obvious answer is on gacha pulls, right? So we wanted to discuss what other locations or what other things you should use it on, right? So the reason why I would consider doing it here is, especially when you're still low level and you don't have more than, I think you start off with 10 gate keys. It's gonna be kind of challenging to not only get all of these are fine, these are easy to get, but the extra rewards for gold and stuff like that are not a super meaningful amount. It's just like a few thousand, 4,000 or 5,000, whatever it is, but that will add up over time. That will be valuable. So then at that point, you're weighing the gold from the extra milestones that spawn after these ones are completed. You're weighing the gold and whatever possible resource drops you can get on whatever stages that you're running. And, you know, that's something you can do. Now, another thing to consider is sweeping. Now, if you, I don't know if non-paying players can do the special sweep. Can they do the special? Can you do the special sweep for a cost of 100? I don't know. Because you get, I think maybe you can. You just don't get the 3 free. I get 3 free special sweeps for the pack that comes with this. But anyway, the point of this is that this is a way to take on something and clear it a little bit faster. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend this. I probably wouldn't. The only case I would recommend that is if you, well, your gates don't refresh when the clock hits, you know, the timer. They just refresh your keys. So really, there's not much reason to sweep. You can personally wait. It's one of those things. Okay, so let me just wrap this up in a bow. For gates, don't do it unless you have an event ongoing, like I mentioned with the dungeons and stuff. But the only other reason to do it is if you're trying to power level, because the consistency with experience is there. Maybe in the future, if and or when they add a gate for gold exclusively, that may be something I can recommend doing. All right. I went through it one more time, and that appears to be basically everything that it's going to ask you to do a soul essence on. It's basically going to be to replenish a resource, not to be confused with when you don't have certain materials or whatever to craft something. Some games will let you use the premium currency in exchange for that. This game doesn't appear to be doing that. If I come over to the fuse area or the craft area, it's going to just make me like, I can't exchange gold apparently for essence either. Like this game doesn't have some of those same things that some of the other games would have as well. So basically super straightforward. So I hope this was helpful. If you're new, subscribe. And if I forgot any location that is worthwhile, please let me know. Only thing I didn't really talk about too much, because it was a given when I talk about instance dungeons, was what, encore missions. It's the same thing, exact same premise, right? So anyway, thank you. I'll see you next time. If you're new, subscribe. Peace.